All right, you're listening to Show Talk with Angela Butler. Today's interview is Miss Sherry Peel Jackson. Miss Sherry Peel Jackson is a former IRS fraud examiner for the IRS. Back in 2008, she was charged, I believe, arrested and sent to prison. I'm going to let Miss Sherry Peel Jackson tell you her story. I'm also going to let her. How are you doing, Miss Jackson?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing good, Miss Sherry. I'm going to call you Miss Sherry from here on out. So now you're an entrepreneur. You overcome your obstacles. You've overcome triumph over everything. You've triumphed. You're victorious. You're a winner. You're a succeeder. You're intelligent, you're educated, you're successful. But back in I believe it was 2008. Am I correct?
It all started a little bit before that, but yes, I had a trial in late 2007 where I was accused of willful failure to file tax returns, which is a misdemeanor charge, and did not get a chance to properly represent myself. And the jury was already afraid of the IRS, so I was convicted and sent on a misdemeanor charge that is totally unprecedented. However, they wanted to shut me up because I was going around the country, with all my degrees and all of my letters behind my name, explaining to people that the income tax was being misrepresented and misapplied to the American people. I never told people to file or not to file. I never told people to pay or not to pay. I just said, do your own research. Do your due diligence and figure out how whether you're going to be a slave or get off the plantation. So educating people about how to really manage their finances and what's really being done with their finances is more dangerous than, obviously, all the people who had felonies and didn't even get 4 years.
Okay, you got felonies for this, and there were people...
No, I had misdemeanors. No felony. What I'm saying to you is, people that, like, there are people who have done very serious things that harm children, and they got less time than I did. On a misdemeanor, I got 4 years. 4-year sentence on a misdemeanor charge is not normal. But when you're exposing what the government does to people, then they'll try to do anything. They tried to find a felony, but they couldn't. They came and raided my house one day. They were there for 8 hours, collected 32 boxes from my home. But all they came up with was, we're a homeschooling family that was trying to keep what we earned. So they were only able to charge me with not filing tax returns. And not filing tax returns is a misdemeanor.
But you got 4 years.
Yeah, I actually served 3 of those years. They had to give me 6 months good time and 6 months halfway house. So they let me out 3 years to the day. But that didn't change anything. We're still being robbed, and we're in slavery. There's a saying that I have in my office. If stealing 100% of the product of someone's labor is slavery, at what percentage is it not slavery?
Okay. All right. So what were you telling people? What were you educating people? Because it's obvious that you're educated. You were a former fraud examiner for the IRS. You have your own business, your own books, your own classes. I mean, so you're married, you're successful. So what was it that you were telling people?
Back then, we were explaining what is actually in the tax law. In other words, people are told that they have to pay tax on their income, but there's no definition of income in Title 26. Income, we found out based on Supreme Court cases and state Supreme Court cases, income is corporate profit. So let me explain it to you this way. You, Angela Butler, asked me to come over and cut your grass, and I say, yes, I'm going to come cut your grass for $100. So we agree that you're going to give me $100 to cut your grass. I use my arms, my legs, and my brain. I cut your grass, and you give me a $100 bill. That's an even exchange. I used my life force, and you gave me something for it in exchange. That's what is supposed to be happening with our labor. We're supposed to exchange our life force so that we can live, so that we can have life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, so that we can take care of our families. corporate profit is this. Walmart, let's say Walmart, the smallest Walmart in the country, let's say today it made $100 when it closed, $100,000, I'm sorry. But that $100,000, things have to come out of there, like the salaries of the workers, the electricity, the rent for the building, and all that stuff. So let's say all of that added up to $60,000. So they brought in $100,000. They had $60,000 today to pay for the electricity and the workers and all that. So they actually made $40,000, and it's the $40,000 that is supposed to be taxed. Corporate profit of $40,000. So if you look at it that way, they're making us pay tax of the 100%, but the corporate profit is what's supposed to be taxed. So we were just explaining what we saw in the law, and because those of us that were going around the country doing the explaining had a lot of credibility, and people were paying attention, and people were going to their law books. And then Aaron Russo, the Hollywood movie producer, he made Trading Places with Eddie Murphy. He made The Rose with Bette Midler and some other movies. He got angry at the IRS, and he decided to do a documentary about the IRS and some other things that were going on in the country. The movie is called America, Freedom to Fascism. That movie came out in 2004. It had me and other former IRS agents in it, former FBI agents, some constitutional attorneys, and a lot of business people, basically explaining that we're being robbed. Doesn't matter what color we are, black, blue, green, yellow, pink, with polka dots, we are being robbed of our resources. After that, they got angry, and then they started prosecuting several of us. I'm not the only one that got sent to prison. A couple of people got off because they had really good lawyers and they had a thinking jury. But for the most part, several of us did not get off because the jury is afraid that if they vote for us, if they acquit us, then the IRS was going to come after them. So it's a whole three-ring circus. And now I teach people not to try to cut the head off the beast like I did. Don't go head up against them and say, I'm not paying because you're stealing money. But I help people to starve the beast now. And how I do that is have them deduct from their businesses. I have people start businesses, and the Internal Revenue Code Section 162 says you can write off all ordinary and necessary business expenses. Ordinary and necessary meaning helpful, common, and appropriate business expenses. So that's what we do now.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm trying to cut the head off the beast. All right, that makes good sense. So the beast is big.
Yes. And it has unlimited money because it gets money from all of the people who are afraid to go up against it.
Yeah. But you understand why they're afraid.
Of course. They don't want to go to jail. They don't want their stuff taken from them.
Right.
Yes, but stuff is not important to me because if we don't do something about the system like it is right now, then our children are going to be back in real slavery because it's getting that bad.
Yeah, but IRS is a big creditor.
IRS is the bouncers for the club called the Federal Reserve. It's the Federal Reserve, the banksters that are in charge, made up of the wealthy banking families.
So I call them creditors. So that's what they really are.
Yeah. No, the IRS, my name for the IRS is the insidious representatives of Satan.
Okay. So you found this out. Now, what did you find out in the Constitution?
Well, actually, our constitutional rights are to be able to do contracts as long as it's not something that's illegal. So that contract between you and me and the cutting the grass, that was a private contract. And in exchange, we gave something to each other in exchange. That's what's supposed to be there. As far as the taxes, we're supposed to have imposts, excises, duties, and tariffs. What that means is the countries that do business with the United States, for the privilege of being able to do business here, they're supposed to pay a tax.
Foreign businesses.
Pardon?
The foreign businesses?
Yes, foreign businesses. There are others that are supposed to pay different taxes. In Title 27, it tells you that if you win the lottery or if you win gambling, then you're supposed to pay a certain amount of that in tax. It's very specific and very explicit about who really is supposed to pay the tax when it comes to things like that, excise taxes and lottery winnings and stuff like that. But when it comes down to the income tax, you have all of this googly gob in there about gross income and net income and all of this stuff. But when it comes down to it, there's no definition of income that applies to us. And when you talk about levying somebody's bank account, what the law says is that levy shall be made upon an employee of the government. And most of us aren't employed by the government. So all of these things, they say, you know, if you want to hide something from a black person, put it in the book, but that's not really accurate. When you want to hide something from anybody, you put it in 70,000 pages worth of volumes and volumes and split it up, and then they don't understand what's going on. But when you go back and look at the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers and all these things, we were supposed to be in charge of our labor. Government was supposed to be very small. We're not supposed to have the National Education Association. I'm supposed to be able to go downtown Atlanta and go to the Capitol building and talk to the governor there about education, not go to Washington and fight with some bureaucracy that wants to teach our children something besides reading, writing, arithmetic. So government has gotten to be a beast, and it wasn't supposed to be, and that beast is what's taking our resources from us. So some people are going to be okay with it, and they're going to work all the way until July in order to get the money that actually goes in their pocket, because the first six or 7 months they're paying the IRS and the government, and some people are not okay with that. So wealthy people get away with it because they're the ones that tell Congress what to write in the law. Congress is the one that is supposed to write the law, but there are these corporations. I call them the corporatocracy. The corporations, the government, and the banksters get together, and they write stuff in the law for themselves. And then, you know, the rest of us, you know, we're stuck with the tax. For example, let me give you a good example, Angela. There's a law, or it's a rule called the Augusta Rule. There's a place called Augusta, Georgia, and every year they have this huge golf tournament. I think it's called the Masters. Well, there are a lot of rich people down around that Masters golf course, and they have mansions. And when the golf teams come into town, they wanted to rent out these mansions, and instead of trying to get hotels because there were too many fans around and, you know, paparazzi and stuff. And the people that own the mansions went to Congress and said, hey, we want the people, you know, that come in for the Masters for that couple of weeks to rent out our mansions, but we don't want to have to pay for it. We don't want to have to pay tax on that money. So they wrote the Augusta Rule. The Augusta Rule says that you can rent your house out for a total of 14 days during the year and not have to pay tax on it. And when I looked at how much those houses were renting for, those houses were renting for $10,000 to $14,000 a night. So you have people that are making $140,000 letting the golf team from Portugal or the golf team from Australia or wherever rent their house, and they don't have to pay a lick of tax on that $140,000. Now, you can do the same thing, but who wants to rent your house? Who wants to rent my house? So that's what I'm saying. Congress tells the IRS what to put in the law, and they put the loopholes in there for them to always be the rich and us to always be the poor.
Okay. All right. I did not realize that. I did not know that about Augusta, Georgia. The mass. I knew that's where the Masters was, but I did not know that they had their own law, their own tax.
Yeah.
Right. So, did all the states ratify it in the Constitution that people were to pay taxes in each state?
No, they did not. Bill Benson, my good friend Bill, wrote a 2-volume book called The Law That Never Was. He went to all 50 states. I'm sorry, let's start over. He went to all 48 contiguous states. So he didn't go to Hawaii, didn't go to Alaska, but he went to all of the states and pulled the records together for the voting on the 16th Amendment. And no, not a majority of them did not ratify the 16th Amendment. A lot of times they vote for stuff on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve and all these, and nobody's there. And so he put the volume of books together, and he, it's been around. If you look it up, you might be able to find it on Amazon, but it's called The Law That Never Was. Now, they ran that stuff through, just like they've run a whole bunch of stuff through that's illegal. But the bottom line is there's no definition of income in Title 26. What is income? It is not what I do to take care of my family. I know the people are afraid, and I know that 99% of the people are not going to make a fuss. They're going to shrug their shoulders and say, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't care what the law says. I care what the IRS can do to me. But people are starting to wake up to see that the more rope we give the government, the more they hang us. Look at the egg prices. Look at the milk prices. Look at car prices. Look at housing. We're getting back because we've been giving them too much rope. So a lot of people have decided that they don't want to pay out that much tax. So these high-earning W-2 employees are starting home-based businesses so that they can take advantage of it. For example, you as an employee, and I'm not saying you, but a person as an employee cannot write off your cell phone, but a business owner cannot write off your internet, but a business owner can. For every 2 miles that you drive as a business owner, you get to write off that as business mileage if you're going on a business, if you're out for business. But if you're driving around as an employee, you're not going to get these deductions. So there are a myriad of deductions out there for people that have businesses. For example, there was a woman in 1994, and anybody can look this up. Her name was Cindy Hess. And Cindy Hess was a business owner, and she wrote off her breast enlargement. She went and got a breast enlargement, and she wrote it off on her tax return. The IRS saw it, and they took her deduction away from her, and they just laughed and laughed and laughed. They thought it was funny that she would even try that. But Cindy Hess got her lawyers together, and they went to tax court. And Cindy Hess won the right to take her breast enlargement as a tax deduction. Why? Because Cindy Hess, better known as Chesty Love, was a pole dancer. And she said it was ordinary and necessary business expense because she had to start competing with the younger girls, and she had to keep her body together. So she actually got the chance to write off her breast enlargement. So people should not be afraid to write off their ordinary and necessary business expenses. They just need to start businesses and turn off that electronic income reducer called a TV in the evening when they get home. They need to come home and rest. If you worked all day, 9 to 5 or whatever, come home, get your dinner, decompress with your child, but then instead of turning on that foolishness, then start working on your home-based business. And at first you might have some losses, but you get to deduct a whole bunch of things you're already paying for. And then pretty soon, if you do well, then your business will start making money.
Yes, but your business has to actually make money.
Well, a lot of businesses don't make money. Look at what the wealthy do. When Hillary Clinton was running up against Donald Trump, and I don't have TV, but people were calling me the next day and said, Donald Trump didn't pay his taxes. And they said, he said he's a smart man. So I looked it up on YouTube, and I saw it, and I said, yeah, he is a smart man because he knows how to use the tax law. There are deductions that you can take that don't even cost you money. I know of people who have made like $77,000 in a year in their small business, and after all of the deductions, they only had $16,000 that they were supposed to pay tax on, but they had other deductions to go against that, and then they didn't have to pay any tax. So there's a way. There's a way to do this. We don't know because we're not paying attention. You know, my father always says there's no such thing as luck. Luck is when preparation and opportunity meet. But we don't see the opportunities because we're too busy trying to figure out, you know, who won the game and all that other stuff like that. And until Tom Brady or whoever starts stroking me a check, my team is the Jackson team.
Okay. All right. Understand that. So basically, how much when you worked at IRS as a fraud examiner? I saw your website too. Got the round zeros, the zeros that IRS looks for, around the number, the whole.
Mhm.
I saw that. I was reading that. Yeah, I was reading quite a bit on your website.
Mhm. Well, basically, what I teach people, like I said, is how to starve the beast, how to make sure that you can take the deductions and do the things you need to do without getting audited or without their eyes being on you or without putting a bullseye on your back like I did when I stepped out and said this whole thing is a fraud and I'm not paying. Most people aren't going to do that. So I teach them how to reduce the amount of tax that they have. For example, if you have a W-2 job and you make $50,000 and they're taking a whole bunch of money and you need that, your family can't go on vacation, you're tired of just going to grandma's house in Florida, you know, you want to start building, then you go get a home-based business. And let's say the business has a loss the first year of $10,000. Well, now you're not paying tax on $50,000 W-2. You're only paying tax on $40,000 of that. So you're saving money. And then I help people really grow their businesses. So then, you know, you get to the point where you're making $100,000, $150,000 on your business, then you quit your job. I know one of the associates that I have named Norm, he got his business up to the point where it was making more than making on his job. And then for Christmas, he went into his job dressed like Santa Claus. He had a big old bag full of presents, and he was giving gifts out to all his coworkers. And then he went to his boss and gave him a gift and said, I have to fire you. I'm not coming back in January. And he just, you know, went on with his business. We have more control over our lives and our finances when we start a home-based business. My dad always said to me, as long as you have a job, your boss is going to determine what kind of car you drive, where you live, what neighborhood you live in, and where you go for vacation. And I said to him when I was younger, no, they're not. I'm going to determine all that. He says, no, listen to what I'm saying. Your boss, as long as you have a job, is going to determine what kind of car you drive, where you live, and where you go for vacation. So are you going to be driving a Volkswagen or are you going to drive a BMW? Are you going to be living in some apartments in the Shonuff hood or are you going to be living in a nice, you know, gated community? Are you going to Florida again and again and again and again, or are you going to be able to vacation in Costa Rica? Those things you determine as a business owner. As long as you have a job, somebody else is determining all that for you. So I teach my clients how to transition from the situation where they're just an employee to being an employee and having a home-based business and growing that business than being a full-time business owner unless they want to keep the job.
Okay. All right. So, what do you think about the earned income credit from your experience working with IRS and your experience in money and finances, and you're very educated, very intelligent. What is your opinion about earned income credit?
There are lots of credits in the tax code. The earned income credit is for someone who has lower income. Now, there are people that have situations that they can't make a lot of money. They may be ill or, you know, whatever the reason. That credit is there for them. The problem with the earned income credit, and it has been grossly taken advantage of. For example, I'm going to give you two examples of how the earned income credit has been abused. First of all, there are people that don't work at all, that are scamming. So they'll make up a W-2 from some company. It could be a real company or not. They could get a W-2 from a friend and then duplicate W-2s saying that they made a certain amount of money, and there is a threshold. So if you make a certain amount of money, you get a higher amount back from the earned income credit. So they'll put that amount of money, and then they'll get a refund, and they haven't worked at all. That's one real big abuse that was going on. But the second one is more egregious. People that don't even live in this country, they live in Mexico, they come across the border, fill out a tax return, put 15 children on there. I'm not joking. And then they'll get a huge earned income credit, and they put that money in a bank account somewhere in Mexico. So we're funding other countries because the IRS is not policing the credits that are there on both sides. Even the higher credits, they're credits that the IRS was giving larger companies, and they were being abused also. So I'm okay with people getting the earned income credit if they need it. People need help. But when it comes down to the IRS losing, the government losing millions and millions of our dollars to people who are scamming, then I got a problem with that.
Oh, okay. All right. So, what do you think about the 26,000 that the government, President Biden, and them gave the businesses? What do you think about that per employer and the ERC, the Employee Retention Credit?
Again, the employee retention credit was for businesses who kept going, who were able to keep their doors open, which a lot of thousands of businesses closed during the pandemic, and I did say pandemic. The ones who kept their doors open and were able to keep their employees were rewarded with varying amounts of money. The problem that I have with what the government is doing is you have companies that aren't really companies, and they basically put that paperwork in and got money that was not really due to them. And I think it was more abuse with the EIDL when they were giving the money out to the businesses. You had people that were buying Maseratis and Ferraris with the business, buying houses, and companies that weren't hurting at all got millions of dollars. Our little bitty companies got money. You know, some people got 30,000, some people got 100, 150, but larger companies applied for that EIDL and got millions. So it's always trickling down to us. We get the crumbs off the table, and I don't like that.
Oh, okay. All right. So you feel like the bigger companies should have got that.
They weren't hurting. They were still open. They were still making a profit. How many restaurants closed down? How many beauticians had to close down and start doing, their hair in the living room at their houses? It's wrong. It's just wrong. It's always the little guy because we don't make the rules. So they'll make rules that are self-serving for them, and then to heck with the rest of us. I mean, that's what it is. So we have to fight to be in a position where we're more in control of our lives and our finances. Education is one of the areas. We need to educate our children concerning finances. There's no way that a child should be graduating from high school not knowing how to balance a checkbook and make a budget. But that's the case, and it's been the case. They don't want you to know how to manage money. They don't want you to know what they're doing with your money. They just want you to go to work and then 5 days a week and then come home. They want you in the earn spend cycle. The earn spend cycle is when you go to work on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You get off Friday, you get your paycheck, you go to the restaurant, you go to the mall, you go out to eat, you go to the movies, and then Saturday you go out partying and you go out to eat again. Then on Sunday you throw $25 in the plate, and then on Monday you're broke again. That's what most people are stuck in. And then Monday morning you get up, wash, and repeat. We have got to stop. And those who understand what's going on are getting out of that earn spend cycle and saying, you know what, when I get off work, I'm going to develop a home-based business. I'm going to start, because you have something valuable to offer to the marketplace. All these businesses around here, you can be one of those businesses. You have something, you don't have to have a degree. Most of the people that I know that are millionaires, that I know personally, that I can touch and call, they don't have a college degree. It's not about college. It's about what you have to offer to the marketplace. And if we're serious about wanting change in our life, then we're the ones who have to make that change. We can't depend on government or anybody else to make those changes.
What do you think about President Barack Obama and Miss Michelle Obama's film Leave the World Behind?
Yeah, that's the talk of the town right now. There's a lot of thoughts I have about it. The two that, first of all, that's not the first time that whole concept came around. There's an episode of The Twilight Zone from 1960, and it's called The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, and it's basically the same thing. They make the lights flicker and go off. People were blaming each other, and then they ended up feeding on each other. They ended up killing and stabbing and all that each other, and then when they were doing all that and the chaos happened, the camera panned out, and it was two men with insignia on their arms saying, yes, we're going to do this in every neighborhood. These two men, because it was 1960, they were supposedly aliens, because you could see the alien ship going up into the air, but I liken that to the government. They couldn't say it back then, but this is what the government has been doing. It's pitting us against each other. Its modus operandi, its MO has always been to divide and conquer. So in this movie, you had this diverse group of people. Of course, you had Karen and then her cooked husband, you know, and then you had the black guy. The two things that I see in the movie is they're always trying to tell us something. They're telling us something. We are not prepared for a grid to go down. We are not prepared for the satellites to be taken over. That black man was wealthy. He got plenty of signals that something was going to go down. He talked about it twice. One time when he was sitting at the table talking to the white Karen, and another time when he was in his car at the end of the movie talking about how, you know, these people would joke with him and you know, they had this money, and at the end, this man had him transfer a large sum of money out. He knew something was going on, but he was happy with his life. He was like, okay, I don't want to rock the boat. I'm just going to put, you know, if I went outside and I saw hundreds of animals going to the left, I'm going with the animals. They know something. That's another thing that he was saying. There's something going on, and some people know about it, but they're not telling you. And then there are some people, like the black guy in the movie, that was privy to some information, and as opposed to analyzing it, he kept it in his head and ignored it. See, if that were me, I would have told everybody and their grandma, hey, this guy that I work with, I'm not going to tell you his name, but he just transferred over $1 billion out of all his accounts. Something going down, y'all. We got to figure it out. We got to make a plan, but that's not what happened. So that's what I think about that particular movie. They're telling us something. They're telling us, most science fiction movies are like that. They are telling us something, and we need to be preparing for it. And it's like they laugh, and you know, they laugh at the preppers and the people who are storing up stuff in their basements and all that until you saw where this man was prepared with his shotgun, and he was like, you know, I'm prepared. Y'all gotta go for it. You have plenty of time to get yourself together. That's what I think about the movie. A recent president signing off on a movie like that is not a coincidence. Something is about to go down. The question is, are you prepared? When I was a kid, I was a master at musical chairs. Why is that? Because I made sure that every time that music went off, my behind was in front of a chair. The music is about to go off. The question is, do you have a chair?
That's right. So that's what you think of President Barack's movie that leaves the world behind. All right. You think something's about to go down? A former president. Okay.
Think logically about it. if nothing was about to go down, if you were a president and there was a movie so controversial, would you sign off on it? Would you be involved in it? No, I wouldn't. It's like a friend. If a friend came up to him and said, Barack, man, I saw the script of that movie that you and Michelle are kind of being involved in. That's kind of like, that's really heavy. You think you really should be putting your name out there like that? Well, no, not normally a person wouldn't do that. There's a lot of things that we don't know about what's going on not only in our country but in the world. There are a lot of things that we don't know. There are a lot of people that have tried to expose these things, and they've gotten either killed or they're in exile or whatever. But the wrong thing to do is sit there on your kabunkum and watch TV all day, or go to work and come back and we're always entertaining each other and ourselves. So when the excrement finally hits the portable cooling device, where are you going to go if you haven't prepared?
Okay. All right. Understand what you're saying. Understand exactly what you're saying. So basically, you think President Barack Obama was trying to tell us something. Okay. All right. It's on Netflix. So do you believe that foreign countries control the IRS?
I don't believe that foreign countries control the IRS. I believe that a cabal of people control the IRS. Like, for example, there's a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island, where the Rockefellers and all those got together back in 1909, and they created the Internal Revenue Service, and then they created the Federal Reserve and then created the Internal Revenue Service. Why did they do that? So that they can remain rich and collect interest. The debt clock, if you go to debt clock, we are $34 trillion in debt as a country. That is not sustainable. We'll never be able to repay that debt. So we're swimming in debt. The country is swimming in $34 trillion in debt. Most people are at least $35,000 in debt, excluding their house, with credit cards and brand new Benzes and Beamers and all that other stuff like that. And we've been kicking the can down the road for some decades now, and we see the dead end. So at some point or another, this whole system is not going to. You only got 10 fingers to plug up the holes in the dam. I believe that there's something coming. I don't know what it is, and I don't know when, but I do know that I will do the best I can to prepare myself and my family instead of sitting there looking like a deer in the headlights when the stuff hit the fan. That's not who I am, and I'm trying to help others to understand that the money that you have, instead of going out and buying big old wheels on your car that cost more than the car did, why don't you get some silver and gold? Because at some point or another, the dollar might not have any value. It doesn't have any value now, really, but silver and gold do, and they always have. Gold has been a medium of exchange for over 5,000 years. So why don't you go out and buy some silver and gold instead of going to get a flat screen TV or Versace or what are those bags, not Michael Kors, whatever, those Coaches and all those other people got $500 Coach bags and don't have $5 to put in it. We got to stop as a people. We got to stop.
Okay, we got to stop as a people. Are you speaking to everyone?
I'm speaking to everyone. I'm speaking to the people that do this. If you're not one of the people who goes to the mall every week or every other week or every time you get a paycheck and buys all these clothes and ooh, girl, look what I got. If that's not you, it doesn't apply. But one thing I do know, if the jacket fits, zip it up. We've got to stop spending money on conspicuous consumption and start being strategic with our money. Our problem is white people and other people of other cultures, like the Jewish people and all that. They teach their children how to deal with finances. When I was in prison, there was some little kids visiting their mothers, and they were in Hebrew school, and they knew more than our high school people know about finances. So if you want to be a bling bling person, be a real one. Understand what money is, and don't just go out and be, two pay cycles away from having your furniture on the lawn.
Now, money isn't worth anything. That's what I've been told too. That money's not worth hardly anything.
3 cents right now. Three pennies. $1 is worth 3 pennies right now, based on the values in 1921. You can look that up too. All the things that I'm saying are online. They're out there for research. But the problem is we're not even keeping the dollars that we have. What we're doing is the Jews exchange $1 in their community at least 13 times, others 9 times. As soon as we get the paycheck, it's gone to the mall and to the restaurants and all these other places, and we're not doing business with Black business owners because we've been taught not to trust each other. All of these things, you have to understand they're by design. The fact that women went into the workforce in mass like that was by design, because they wanted, the prices of houses raised, and then there's more people to take tax from. But now it's hard to even run a household with one person. A lot of children are moving back in with their parents. I've talked to several parents that said that, my child has asked me to move back in. She moved out, and now she's coming back with 2 more, and that kind of thing. So we see these things happening. Some people are trying to find out what to do about it, and some people are just, I guess they're okay with it. But when things get really worse, it's not going to be pretty.
It's going to get bad.
It's going to get bad. Look at it now. Look at eggs. I don't buy. There's certain things that I buy not often, but they've doubled in price.
Somebody's going to have to start sending checks out. They've got to have a living wage. They've got to have a living income, like other countries. Other countries have a living income and a living wage. They're going to have to do that in America. They're going to have to figure it out, because people cannot survive in this country like this. The very rich and the very poor. There is no middle class barely anymore.
My father told me that when I was 15 years old. He told me he worked at Georgia Tech. He was a prof at Georgia Tech. He said this guy came in and did a lecture, and he basically, the white person, my dad told him off. How can you say that there'll be no middle class? And he said, sir, the way things are going right now, all of the rich people are going to, have the money. And he said, my dad said, what are the poor going to do? And he said, they're going to be entertained with drugs and sports. And here we are right now with a proliferation of drugs and people, playing sports, betting on sports, going to scream their lungs out for somebody who's not giving them any money. We're right there where that man was back in the early 70s. And there are solutions for us. And I'm not depending on the government for a solution. I'm not depending on them to raise wages. I'm not depending on them to hand out more of these $1,200 checks. When they were handing out or putting $1,200 in people's bank accounts, wealthy people were $300,000. Where is our reparations? I do believe in reparations.
I believe in reparations for Black people. I believe in reparations for Black people. I believe.
So why is it that they can give billions of dollars to Ukraine and Israel, and they can't give us reparations?
That's what I have been saying on my talk shows. Why is that? Why is it that Ukraine can get $60 billion in a blank check, and we can't get anything?
So they pay for all the firemen and policemen's salary we have in Ukraine, and also Ukraine was able to increase the amount of money that their people get for Social Security. All these things that they're not telling you on CNN, CNNBC, and all these other places. I go to alternative news, and I get my news from the places that are going to tell us the truth, and that's what's going on. So they got billions and gazillions of dollars to give to all these other countries. When the Haitians try to come over here, they whip them from horses. They whip them, and then we can't get reparations. So what is this country doing for me? Is it elevating me, or is it making me and my people and my family degenerate? And what am I going to do about that? I have answers, and that's what I teach my clients.
You have answers to know what you teach a client, but I need to become a client.
Yeah, I mean, people are. I have a diverse group of clients, and you know, the commonality with all my clients is they've become fed up. They know that the government's not going to do anything for us. They know that people aren't going to get, you know, the $15 an hour, then they're going to have less people working. So when they raise the rate to $15, some places have raised the rate, like McDonald's, to $15 an hour, and then a Happy Meal or whatever those meals are have gone up to like $15. I saw on one of the alternative media places that I listen to, somebody was in a McDonald's somewhere, and it was the whole meal that used to be $5, $4, or $15. So when they raise the wages, they're also going to raise the prices. That's not the answer. The answer is for us to be industrious, start our own business, start making our own money, making our own decisions about what we do with our money. Do you have the courage to do that? Do you have the wherewithal to just stop depending on a job?
I've tried to have a business for 14 years, but I have difficult sponsors and advertisers, so I'm not really earning hardly anything at all. So if you know,
but you have something that you can offer in the marketplace. You just have to dig it out of you and then offer it in the marketplace. Just because I have a degree doesn't mean anything. The people that I know that are doing well, they just did some research. They turned off the TV. They got rid of the TV. Most of us don't have TV. I have a television screen, but we watch Netflix on there, and my granddaughter, we watch little educational movies. So I don't have ABC, CBS, Channel 2, 5, 11. I don't have any of that. Haven't seen any of that for years. It's been almost 10 years. So what we need to do is we need to make that decision that we're going to take control of our own lives and finances. You get the job, you work good on the job, but you use that money wisely. No more big screen TVs, no more clothes from needless markup, none of that stuff. Stop buying furniture. I need to redo my house. I need a new car every 3 years. Why? You styling and profiling, perpetrating a prima donna for who? Trying to look like the Joneses, and the Joneses broke too.
I understand what you're saying. I understand exactly what you're saying. There are people are living 3, 4, and 5 to a household.
Yeah. No, the Latinos. When I was an IRS agent, I did an audit on a business. It was a cash business, and that's another thing they do. They get cash businesses, and they don't report the cash. There were 26 people living in a 4-bedroom house. I kid you not. Because they were on a mission. They all came over. They worked together. I don't know how they were all piled up on each other, but they put their money together, and they start businesses. We can't be hating on them. We can't get along long enough. We can't get along past Christmas or the family reunion. But they had a mission. They got a plan. One started the business, everybody working in that business, then they branched off into another business. That's what they do. Why can't we do that? We have been programmed. Our biology has been changed. Our culture has been changed. And our environment has been changed. We've got the school-to-prison pipeline to deal with, where they're not teaching our children, everybody being classified with ADD.
The prison pipeline, which is years ago, I did a show with an NAACP president from Bay County, Florida. He's now second in charge of the NAACP here in Florida. Yeah, Rufus Woods, Dr. Rufus Woods, and I did an interview with the Center, the Black Caucus Foundation.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did interviews with them. They were talking about the school to prison pipeline.
Mm-hmm. Think about it.
Heard it from a local NAACP president back then. He was NAACP president in Panama City there. Panama City, Rufus Woods. Dr. Rufus Woods. Yeah, he was talking about the school to prison pipeline.
Yeah, and it's still there. It's still there. I mean, if they're not educated, if our children are in school and they're failing.
Grade. First or second grade, they start testing the children and building jail cells prisons and jails and things to hold them in by the way they test on their scores,
Yeah, the prisons are private prisons now, and they make a whole bunch of money. So they make they figure out how much profit they need, and then they fill the prisons up based on the profit that they need. And the children are educated. When they get out of school, they can't get a job, so then they do some criminal stuff, and that's the school to prison pipeline. What we need to do is what like we were doing in the 60s, is educating ourselves. One of the worst things that ever happened to black people was integration. When we had our own schools, we were teaching what we needed to know. We were teaching the skills that we needed. We were teaching those that built the Tulsa, the Black Wall Street. Those people knew what they were doing. They huddled together, and then you had bombs raining down on them. Whose bombs were those that rained down and destroyed 12 city blocks of Black Wall Street? It wasn't the white mob that was trying to start this thing. They didn't have bombs. So these things we have to think about. You have to think about who are you going to serve, who and how are you going to help your family.
Reparations, the Rosewood Massacre in Rosewood, Florida, they did get reparations. I think they got $2 million.
They got a total of $2 million or $2 million apiece.
I think it was a total of $2 million. They may have got
exactly. That's a slap in the face, because remember when they locked up all the Japanese after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, then they ran around, like idiots, locking up all the Japanese people. They got reparations. How many other sets of people have gotten reparations and we haven't gotten reparations? And when are the black leaders going to do something about that instead of just running their mouths?
I did a show on it with Reverend Lionel Gann and Mr. Ismail, one of the original Black Panthers, and he said it should come in the form of oil.
The only reason I disagree with that is because black people they're not equipped to understand what to do with that oil.
Talk, but who's going to teach them?
Right. That's why it needs to be in a form of, first of all, they need to get rid of all the black people's student loans, because that's another debt trap. I know people with student loans that are more than a mortgage payment. That's a debt trap, because most of these people aren't even using that degree. Most of them got out of school thinking they were going to get a $100,000 job, and they're working right in the bank, right next to the teller that graduated from high school and doesn't have a degree at all.
All right. I understand that.
Yeah. So we're in a world of trouble, Angela, and I'm glad that you have a voice out there to warn the people to get ready. I don't want us to fall into chaos because we haven't prepared for what these evil people, this corporatocracy, has planned. It's already started. With the prices.
With the killing too.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense. I just yesterday heard of a young man that went to the store to get some tea. He had a ski mask on because it was cold outside. Somebody reported a strange, suspicious person. And the police came upon him, tackled him, threw him down, and the paramedics gave him something for pain or whatever because they beat him up and he died. He went to the store with a ski mask on because it was cold. All he wanted was some tea. So when are our black leaders going to really do something about that? Well, your black leaders, because they're not my leaders. These people aren't my leaders. They make a whole bunch of money, but they don't do anything for the black community.
I understand what you're saying. All right. I understand what you're saying. And I do shows like this all the time, dealing with a lady named Miss Nikki Makita Myers, her son, Mr. Fabian Dante Scott. From time to time, I'll be sending you interviews. If you don't want to send, you don't have to block my number. I'll text them to you. And if you don't want to receive, just say, hey, stop. Don't text me any more interviews. It's depressing.
No, I mean, I use this information when I speak in other places. I had an interview with a white group of people, and they were saying, "Oh, you don't believe in reparations, do you? It's just that's bygones be bygones." And I said, "Sir, my family is from South Georgia. And my great aunt was in a car with the rest of our relatives on the way back home from a funeral. A white doctor that was drunk hit them. He hit their car so hard that she was ejected from the car, and his car rolled over her, and she was pregnant. They thought that my family was going to prosecute this doctor, so they came in the night with their guns and their fire, and they told my family to get out. All of them, uncles, aunts, all of them, not just that one family. All of them had to leave. They had to uplift themselves with whatever they had. They didn't have several days to get out of there. They had to take what they had on their backs and in whatever the car that they had, and wheelbarrows or whatever they had, and leave South Georgia, and they ended up in different parts of Florida. So how do you compensate me? This doctor went on to practice. His family's probably wealthy right now. They got all kind of trust and all this stuff right here, and our family got upended and had to start all over. I need to be I need reparations for that, for my family, because we got put behind. We were already behind, but we had to leave the house, had to leave clothes, had to leave the whatever they had planted for food, everything, had to leave their jobs and start all over because this doctor killed my great aunt and her baby, but he didn't want to be prosecuted. That's one of many stories out there about why Black people need reparations. My family needs to be compensated for the fact that we had uplifted.
Grandma run out the state of Alabama. We need to be compensated for that because we lost a lot leaving Alabama. We lost our family.
Yeah.
We lost our livelihood.
Yeah.
Cause
so much of it. So much of it. You can't say bygones be bygones. You can't do that.
Yeah, right. Right, my whole family. Some of my family are still renting. We need to be compensated. We lost land.
Yes. Land was taken from people. Land was stolen from people that were given the land, and then it was stolen back. So yeah, you can't talk to me. You might think that I am really conservative, but when it comes down to truth, the truth is we need to be compensated for all. We're so far behind because of things that you just said and things that I just said happening over and over and over again. This Lake Lanier thing, they flooded that area. That was a whole town. Manhattan used to be ours. Don't get me started.
Yes, that's what that's what my shows are about. Lake Lanier, places like that. Show Talk with Angela Butler talked about Lake Lanier in Georgia. It's talked about that in New York. I talked with Miss Elaine Riddick. She was sterilized, butchered, basically. She had one child. They let it live, her son, and he's a grown man now. And she's married, of course, but God blessed her with a... No, I think she's married, yeah. I believe she is. And she was butchered. They called it a hysterectomy, but she was butchered.
A lot of that goes on. A lot of the sterilization that took place.
Sterilization, castration. Yeah, that's still going on in the prison.
Yeah. So yeah.
Places.
Don't tell me let bygones be bygones.
Yeah, and then there's just all the political prisoners, people who are in prison, that are in prison that shouldn't be there. That was Janet and Janine Africa. They were in prison. They should not have been.
Yeah, it goes on, and it's like nobody's gonna stop it, Angela, but us.
It's Janet.
Nobody's gonna stop it.
No, nobody doesn't seem to want to stop it.
It's got to be us.
Yes. All right. Well, I will be back in touch with you because I want to learn how to do those tax things.
Okay.
So I will be contacting you again. Is there anything else we have not covered that you would like to cover?
Well, I mean, if people really want to know how to keep, protect, and grow what they earn, they can go to my website, SherryPLJackson.com. I have classes, I have coaching, and just ways to learn. And I have a YouTube. You can go to my YouTube channel, Dr. Sherry Peel Jackson, and, you can get free information. Or if you want some personal coaching, you can go to my website, sherrypeeljackson.com.
I don't know what reparations should look like. I don't know if reparations should be grants, canceling all student debt, checks. But I know California made a good start. I don't know if it passed.
Well, when the money hits the palm of the hands, then I will say that was something good. I believe, first of all, the student loan debt should be canceled, first of all. And then after that, based on where a person is, I think that they should be compensated. For example, you got somebody that's just graduated from college and, they struggle through college, get rid of the student loan and give them enough money to get a house. The houses are the foundations for wealth, because the people that have homes, they can, use the equity, like myself, use the equity in their homes to get more homes and more property and all that. As long as we're renting, we're never going to be wealthy. So, yes, you need homes.
I'm facing extreme discrimination for home equity and loans are concerned. It's extreme discrimination. I cannot get a home equity loan. I have a house that is paid for, and I cannot even get a home equity loan. So, you know.
And so you need help with something like that. It's like we don't know these things. We don't know what we don't know, and that's what's bad. The scripture says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge."
The house is in good condition. It's a nice house. It's been renovated. But I can't get a home equity loan.
Yeah, then there's got to be a way around that. My people perish for lack of knowledge.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. People
don't we can't reject the knowledge, because if the next part says, because they have rejected knowledge, I will reject them. We don't want to reject the knowledge. We don't want to entertain ourselves to the point where we're passing over the knowledge. But I appreciate you having me on your show, and I'm willing to help.
Butler. All right, thank you. All right, everyone, you've been listening to Miss Sherry Peel Jackson. Miss Sherry Peel Jackson is a very intelligent, educated Black woman. I know I said she was Black. That's because they try to put us in such a category that, well, I just want everyone to know Miss Sherry Peel Jackson is a very intelligent, educated, smart Black woman. Smart woman. Beautiful Black woman. I've seen her photos. And I'm thankful that she's on Show Talk with Angela Butler. I hope you learned something. I hope you go to our website, misssherrypeeljackson.com. I hope you go there and learn something about how to keep money for yourselves and your families. Like I said, the reason I interviewed her, my interest mainly was because of her heroic stance against the IRS and educating people and going across the country, not telling people not to file tax returns, or to file tax returns and things like that, but not to pay income tax, employment, things like that, but was because of the stance she took. And here in Florida, they sent her to prison for it with misdemeanors. She did 3 years. And she's a former IRS employee, and that fascinated me that she had the courage to stand up and do that back in 2006, 2007, 2008, during that time period. That fascinated me. I wanted to interview her and let everyone, and I thank Mr. Brad Lewis for introducing me to her. I'm glad I could interview her, and I hope you all learned something. Like she said, don't bite the head of the beast, try to bite the head of the beast off like she did. She understands that people are afraid of prison and jail and losing everything they got, losing their homes and things like that. So IRS is a big deal. IRS is a big deal. But I wanted people to know about her, not just the knowledge that she had, not just because she's teaching people how to keep their money, but because I wanted people to know about Miss Sherry Peel Jackson. That's the main thing. I wanted people to know about her because I did not know about her till someone told me about her. A lot of people I interview are referred to me. I didn't just wake up one morning and say, hey, I'm going to interview Miss Sherry Peel Jackson. No, I did not know about her. I did not know about Miss Elaine Riddick. I knew about the castration, the sterilization, but I did not know anyone personally who had been did that way. I knew about people who had been put in homes for being mentally retarded and things like that, who had got pregnant and things like that. But I did not know that the sterilization was going on. The castration was in such large numbers in the prisons. And when I said not necessarily castration, what I'm talking about is sterilizing black men also. And that's the only way you can sterilize black men, really, is to castrate them. Because men, I don't know how many people know this, I'm sure everybody probably does, that's my age or even younger than me, knows that a man can have a baby, can make a baby at 100 years old, 110 years old, he can still make a baby. A woman cannot do that. So that's basically the only way you stop a man from having a baby. There's such things as vasectomies, too. You can give them vasectomy. You can give men vasectomies, too. So it's not just castration, but that's one of the main ways you stop a man from reproducing. Of course, 2 men can't make a baby, and 2 women can't make a baby either. So, but I wanted to interview her because I learned about her, and I want you all to know about the people I learned about. So I asked. So they said, "Hey, Angela, I got a great interview for you. There's somebody that can really educate people. There's somebody that people need to know about. And you'll know about her too. Researcher. Here's the name, look her up, find out about her, see that I'm telling you the truth. I mean, I got a great interview for you." And, I'm like, okay, I'll research it. I'll do my research. And thank you. So she called me, but Miss Lane Riddick really gave me a punch in the stomach. Because she was only 13 years old. But this show was not about Miss Elaine Riddick and her being butchered at 14 years old because she was poor, black, and female in interrogation. It's not about her, but that gave me a punch in the stomach. And that she kept her baby. That hit home with me. So anyway, I thank you for listening to Show Talk with Angela Butler, and that's how I get my interviews. I find people. I look for people, and people are referred to me. I actively go looking for people to interview, and that's how I get my interviews. Some of them just referred, like Miss Sherry Peel Jackson, like Miss Elaine Riddick. But a lot of time my interviews, I go searching for them myself. So thank you for listening to Show Talk with Angela Butler. Thank you for listening to Miss Sherry Peel Jackson. Hope you research her. I hope you go to our website, and I hope you learn about her. Like you said, don't bite the head of the beast, because the beast is, like I said, the beast is ferocious. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to Show Talk with Angela Butler. Have a blessed night and a good night.